Hey, JulesBlessedVegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. I'm talking about PB, people. That's short for personal boundaries, of which I don't have much. How about you? Whenever I start putting on weight, whenever I get off of my food plan, it's usually about resentment, like this underlying resentment for me not practicing personal boundaries. And so I have a fantastic article called Everything You Need to Know About Personal Boundaries from She Said, which of course I'll include in the description of this video. So it says, what sort of personal boundaries do you have? Healthy boundaries? Limited, non-existent? A little better than that. Loose or porous? Probably. Rigid or a wall? No, most certainly not. Those are the choices. So it reads, unfortunately, we aren't born with instruction manuals or have a go-to book we can open when we hit technical difficulties. For many of us, personal boundaries are learned because we discover we really need them. Healthy ones can be pretty tricky to master, especially if you've never been taught. You know, it's what is modeled for you, right? If you have a bunch of people modeling zero boundaries, or you grew up in an environment where you're not allowed to have any, like I really didn't know where I ended and the person started. I wasn't allowed to really feel or think for myself. And even though that was years ago, without really deliberate effort, people don't overcome that. And I did work in Codependence Anonymous for a very long time. And let's just say maybe 55% I mastered and have carried with me. But I need that other 45%. So there are different types of boundaries, but the psychological ones are what we use most in relationships. They're basically like an imaginary line, which either prevents or allows entrance to cause us personal harm. Not many people realize there are 4 different varieties: rigid, porous, non-existent, and healthy. It's helpful to know which type you have and how to make some adjustments. And I think this is kind of per situation, right? When it's intimate, like family members and stuff, my boundaries are actually less than with civilians that I readily protect myself from. It's pretty interesting. Okay, so for rigid, often referred to as having a wall up. People with these boundaries find relationships difficult. They won't allow anything to flow in or out, like having a blocked filter. That's not my story. Porous. People of this type have a penetrable boundary. Others are able to push through it at will. However, boundaries are set for themselves, like how much they choose to share. Regardless of this, they allow themselves to be hijacked and can suffer the consequences of others. If you've ever let someone make you feel guilty, you may have a porous personal boundary. Please, I majored in that. Oh my gosh, I had a situation today that I was fretting on all night. So yeah, I so get that. Okay, non-existent. On the opposite end of the spectrum to rigid boundaries, non-existent types are equally as harmful to a person. There is no filter of what comes in and what goes out. Therefore, the imaginary line is completely absent. Without a filter, they can offer too much personal information about themselves, which can lead to others taking advantage of them. Plus, they often lack the capacity to say no. This can be a dangerous combination. And so, you know, that's not always true for me, and it's something I've had to work really hard at because, again, I kind of grew up in a setting that didn't allow boundaries. You weren't really allowed to think for yourself, act for yourself. You know, you were told what to do, told what to think, told how to act. So somewhere between non-existent at times and porous. And then finally, healthy. Are you so blessed? Described by psychotherapist Joyce Martyr, LCPC, as the midway between diva and doormat. Healthy boundaries are the key to fulfilling relationships. It's much like a dual doorway, which lets others in to take a peek at who we really are and allows us access to know others. The difference between this and unhealthy types is the filter. Careful screening of what goes through the filter is achieved. All right, how to adjust your personal boundaries? Yes, please. Luckily, personal boundaries are adaptable. The first step is recognizing which type you have. Only after acknowledging this can it be altered. Secondly, achieving a healthy PB is relative to how far from healthy it is. For example, if you have a non-existent PB, you have some way to go. Less of it's porous or rigid. The third step to achieving a healthy balance is to clearly define the boundaries you want to set. This works with all unhealthy types. If it's too rigid, boundaries need to be relaxed. Working out what can be divulged and accepted is the key. If porous, applying the boundaries set for themselves to those around them is effective. These people understand personal boundaries, but loved ones can sneak past them. That's kind of cute. Let's go back. If porous, applying the boundaries set for themselves to those around them is effective. These people understand personal boundaries, but loved ones can sneak past them. That's what I meant. Like, my family gets away with it more than a civilian, right? What will be most significant with non-existence PBs will be shifting from the comfort zone to a zone which is unfamiliar. PB development over time, therefore, change will take place slowly. Identify opportunities which cause less discomfort and set boundaries. Working towards more uncomfortable situations as time passes. Practice, time, and gradual exposure to change is the easiest, most effective way to achieve a healthy balance. And that's by Kim Chartres. And I agree with that. You know, the interesting thing is people aren't comfortable with change. Not just the individuals striving for it, but those around them who are like, what is your problem? You always let me get away with this before. And it's like, I know, but I'm exhausted and I don't feel like letting you get away with that anymore. People, you might be hearing another video on boundaries. I am in desperate need. All right, my friends, I'm going to a Dodger game tomorrow with a whole bunch of teachers. It is Teacher Day at Dodger Stadium. And we got a group pack, and we're going to get our teacher t-shirt and go to the old ball game. We'll see how it goes. All right, my friends, like if you like, join us if you haven't. Subscribe. Let me know in the comments below how I may support you. And until we talk again, best of all, know that you're blessed.